Welcome to the Seller Roundtable e-commerce coaching and business strategies with Andy Arnott and Amy Wees.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a Seller Roundtable extra session. We are talking with my friend Regina Peterburgsky today about chatbots, but not just chatbots. We're also going to talk about her Amazon story and, how she got started in e-commerce and why the title of her new chatbot program is Chatbots for tech-challenged newbies. I absolutely love that name because I feel like so many people are like, you want me to build what? So Regina, welcome to the Seller Roundtable. Thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Amy. It's awesome to be here. And before we carry on with the rest of the conversation, I just wanted to say that it's actually your inspiration that got me to put together that training program. So it's all up to you. So thank you.
Well, you're welcome. I mean, hey, I can't take all the credit. You certainly did it. So
well, yes, but if it wasn't for your sort of poking me, metaphorically speaking, giving me a poke just to say, just do it, it would never have been done. So thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, everyone. I said, hey, Regina, that would be something we'd all like to learn. Why don't you put it in a course?
Yeah.
And then, Regina did what Regina does, which is just getting things done. So, so Regina, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Okay, I was born at a very early age. I am a ex-refugee from the former Soviet Union. We immigrated when I was 7, so technically English is my second language. So I don't, and I say that just to say that I don't come from privilege or higher education. I never completed college or university, only because I was too busy working. I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit. So I actually went to university twice, but was happier sort of working 2 or 3 jobs, making money, making friends. So I never completed any type of formal training, and also partly because I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. And I've had, an interesting, full life throughout my life. I've done all sorts of things. I've sold cars. I've sold insurance. I spent 10 years traveling for a living as a tour leader, tour director, taking people on holidays all over the world. So that was fun. And about 16 years ago, I returned back to Australia, where my family has continued to live, and that's where I'm based now, and got into retail. So I actually had a women's clothing store ended up 10 years. As part of that, I had my own design, so I was a fashion designer as well, and I use that term very loosely. I sort of always say design in the same way that we private label on Amazon. We private label in clothing as well. So I was actually doing private labeling in the fashion field. So I was designing, manufacturing in China, wholesaling here in Australia, plus had my own retail store, plus I was importing from Europe, and doing all of that. And I had a baby at 11 years ago. So I was in my business on my own with a baby and not making a lot of money. So after sort of the dust settled, so to speak, with the baby and the baby was weaned, I was looking for opportunities, and I knew I wanted to get out of retail fashion. And so I set up a baby clothes website here in Australia. So that was my actually second foray into online. And I built this beautiful, paid somebody a lot of money to build a beautiful website, and spent a lot of time and money on SEO. And I was ranking on Google here in Australia for all the main keywords, and was doing okay. And then, of course, Google changed their algorithm, and my tens of thousands of dollars were wiped out, in investment were wiped out. And so if you know anybody who needs baby clothes, I still have a few upstairs in my in my attic. And because, I'd been immersing myself into this online world, I got into all sorts of email lists, and I kept getting this email every 6 months or so about this Amazon stuff, selling stuff on Amazon. And of course, here in Australia, and especially sort of 6-7 years ago, we didn't really know anything about Amazon. We knew it existed to buy books, but that was pretty much my exposure to Amazon. Knew nothing about it. And so after seeing it for the third time, I finally thought, oh, well, let's see what this whole Amazon thing is about. And funnily enough, now this is a story I've never told publicly. At the same time, I was also bidding in an online auction for a dropshipping website. So I was, and it was, would you believe, an adult toys dropshipping website. So here you go, exclusive. So I was in an online auction to buy this dropshipping business. And at the same time, this Amazon opportunity, I'm watching videos. So I was doing this while I was working full-time in my retail store. So I'm watching, I've got all of this stuff going on, and I placed my bid on the website. And I said, right, that's my final offer. If I get it, I get it. And that's the direction I'm going. And I got outbid by one person. So I was like, okay, so that's not for me. So I took that same money and invested in the Amazon training program instead. Funnily enough, within 24 hours, the seller of that website got in touch with me to tell me that the other person had pulled out, and I could have that website instead, and it was like too late. So I could have been
You could have been in the adult toy industry.
I could have been in the very adult toy industry.
Which
there's the sliding doors moment,
which isn't easier than baby clothes on Google when it comes to advertising. No, that's for sure.
That's for sure. But the difference was it was drop shipping, so I wasn't actually. I wouldn't have a garage full of dildos in my.
I love this story. Why have you not told this story publicly before?
I don't know. I forget it. I sometimes forget it. It's funny the directions that business goes. So anyway, the upshot was I invested in my Amazon FBA training. And it was like.
And what year was that? What year did you get started?
It was 2015. So a little over 5 years ago. That was ASM 5.
ASM, okay.
Yeah,
cool.
So it was ASM, and it was ASM 5.
So you were learning from ASM, but at the same time, I mean, you had some experience in retail. This is not your first time around the block. This is kind of, ASM was like your introduction to
a channel. It was for me, it was a channel because I already knew about business. I already knew about sourcing from China. That was not scary for me.
You already knew how to run an e-commerce website, which a lot of people, they come on Amazon, and that's such an important skill to have besides Amazon.
Yeah. I understood about customer service because I've been in retail wholesale. So I understood about that. I knew a little bit about branding. I knew about, points of difference, but the Amazon training was the missing piece that I didn't know. So I think I only got about less than halfway through the actual training itself. It was like, okay, this is what you need to do, and off I went. And, touch wood, being able to put all of that stuff together, I was comparatively successful. And I launched my first product in the August of 2015. And by that first sort of Christmas selling, I think December, I did $167,000 in sales in my first December, which was just like, didn't know what hit me. It was unbelievable.
That's amazing. Especially for your first product, because so many of us have that first product story. That's like for me, it was the cat toys. I picked these cat toys out, and I'm like, well, this is my niche. And, I was developing my product in there and in that niche. And so I was like, I need a few products to kind of pat around it. And it was so hard because it was so saturated by the time I got it to market. And, And it was not, that's the story that I tell now, is my bad product story, because we all have one. So I love that
Look,
you're.
And I was perfectly expecting for it to be, because they always say in ASM, look, your first product's going to be your training. So I had no expectations. And, and I sent my first 1,000 units in. I did a launch, because not only was I doing the ASM training, I had also bought through a Rapid Crush, which was an affiliate, and they had their own sort of, there's my cats coming in, hello. They had some slightly different training that I actually really had an affinity for, and that made sense to me. So they were back then talking about, you've got to launch. There's no point just getting your product up and waiting for people to buy. You've got to do a proper launch. And so, I did. I followed the bouncing ball. And back then I used a service called Thomason.
Okay. Yes. And Thomason is still.
Yeah,
here
they're still
today.
around. They're still around. But I mean, they've changed the nature of the business. I haven't sort of gone in and seen. But it was basically like micro influencers. And I did like a targeted giveaway. But back then we were doing 99% discount. So I did that, and I did a targeted giveaway with my keywords that I was looking for. So I did again, the tools we had back then were very different.
Yes.
So, we're guessing, it was merchant words and Jungle Scout, with neither of which were particularly accurate.
Right.
But
But hey, I mean, at least we can look back and go, wow, we've come a long way with our tools.
Yeah. So back then, I bought 1,000 units of industry and inventory, and I gave away 100 units, and that sort of propelled me, and I was scrambling. And this is one of the things that people don't tell you about in most of the trainings is, hey, it was great to be successful, but then I'm scrambling to get inventory to pay. So I then had to so I was pulling cash out of my other business to fund the inventory. I did 2 more orders before that December. Like I had to go in big. And I remember that Black Friday, I'd gone all in. I thought, because I tested in August, I'd sold 1,000 units within 3 weeks. I then got another order of 2,000 units. They went pretty quickly. I then I think I did 10,000, maybe 5,000, 10,000. I can't remember, but it was a lot, of inventory that I had to borrow. But I knew it was like Christmas coming, so I had to borrow money to get the inventory. And, obviously it paid off. But I remember that first Black Friday, I sold 200 units in a day, and it was like beyond my wildest dreams. And I don't think I've been happier since, and I've had like my best-selling day, which you've seen the screenshot of. I've done over $250,000 in a day in sales. But that first 200 units was a feeling that I remember. I was literally in tears, ringing my friend saying, this is going to work. I can tell this is actually going to work.
Because you were on the struggle bus with the other businesses, and you had gone through so much. And you're home with the baby. And
she wasn't a baby by then, but here's the comparison. Here's the comparison that I was saying to people. Look, I paid, I can't remember what it was, $5,000 for the training. Right. I had my first inventory was, including shipping, was $4,000. And that's what I paid to get into that business. In my retail business, a couple of years earlier, I had paid $250,000 just for fit out.
Yeah.
Right. And to build my website, it cost me $30,000 back then. Again, these days, those costs are different, but I paid $30,000 for a website. So for me, this was like the cheapest, easiest business opportunity. It was like, oh my God, why isn't everybody doing this?
Well, and you might say that with a similar product today, because Amazon has changed a lot, right? You might say that with a similar product today, in 2015, those were like the golden years, right? When we were able to put anything out there, and it would sell better than the same type of product might sell today.
Well, in fact, funnily enough, I've had one of my products that's, related, same, has been out of stock for more than 6 months, and I'm just about to get new stock. So it's almost like a brand new one. So I'm going to be testing all my new sort of launch strategies in the next few weeks as soon as it lands, because it may as not, it may as well be a new product. In fact, it's possibly worse because it's got no sales history, but the ASIN's been up for a while. So So I'll test that theory out. But yes, look, things are different now. So my story has been within 12 months of launch, I'd actually literally closed the doors to my retail business, and I've been full time on Amazon, coming up to 4 years now, and that's it. So I sell. I have my main brand that is still selling very much related products that I started with, and I have two sort of smaller brands that are not really doing anything. Again, we all have our failures. I don't call them failures. The product's still selling. I'm just not doing $100,000 a month with them, but they tick across. So that's what I'm doing. And then the last a little bit over 12 months, I decided it was time for me to step up, get public, because I was always very private about what I was doing. Nobody really knew. So really the last 12 months have been more public about my story. I started my podcast, Women on Amazon, and my Facebook group. I do a little bit of private coaching, and coming onto podcasts, and just finished my chatbot training. So that's a little bit of a story. I'm still a solo mum. My daughter is about to turn 11 next week, going on 17.
Oh my goodness. Yes, I know how that feels. I have a 13 and a 10-year-old. So, I get it. So it's really cool. I think so many of us start really keeping our heads down, like working in our business. And then because of this beautiful e-commerce community, we find ourselves in a position to be able to mentor. And it's so wonderful because all of us were once there. All of us needed that mentor at some point. And, you mentioned, you had ASM, but I'm sure you had a lot of mentors along the way.
And I paid, I was involved with a mastermind group, which was a $25,000 a year mastermind group, and I was flying from Australia to Vegas 4 times a year to meet up with those people. So I invested heavily in my growth in the business. But again, as I said, I'd previously paid $250,000 just for, curtains and mannequins and wall paintings and floors. So for me to invest $25,000 in training was not a big deal, given that I was actually making the money. I was not borrowing the money. I was not borrowing the money to pay for that training, which unfortunately these days, there are some, certainly in Australia, there are people that are encouraging, these gurus are encouraging people to borrow money to pay them $25,000 a year for this training. And so I certainly say, do not, under any circumstances, put yourself into debt for training, unless it's like just basic, but I'm talking about like that really high level coaching. Only pay for that when you're making the money.
Yeah. Right? And when you're going to be able to be there and let it, pour into your business and really get the benefit out of it. And you're not going to be strapped wondering, how am I going to pay for inventory? How am I going to pay for me to make any money? So along that line, being a mentor now and all of that, there's so many people getting into e-commerce now. So what would be your advice to people who are just getting started in e-commerce and are just maybe like trying to figure out, either Amazon or any other of these?
Look, there's so many different, and I think that's certainly a big problem, because there's so many shiny objects out there. Every day you get something in your inbox that says, hey, look over here, we can do it this way, and look over here, you can, and look. And there are so many amazing different ways that you can make money online with, and even just on Amazon, there's at least a dozen different ways you can use the Amazon platform itself, not just private label, which is what I do. So I've been learning about all of those recently. There's so many different ways. So whether it's e-commerce, drop shipping, Amazon, your own, Shopify, whatever you do, I think my main advice would be pick a lane, pick a lane and turn off those shiny object distractions and give it a really good go. Make yourself a plan, because not everything will work, but make yourself a plan and say, okay, for the next X amount of months or years, in terms of time or money, I'm going to invest and really make it work. And if it doesn't work after, whatever target it is that I'm aiming for, then start looking for other opportunities. But I think that's a real problem right now is there's almost too much choice, and they're all good. There's nothing wrong with a lot of them. I mean, obviously there is some snake oil out there, but there are a lot of really good opportunities. At some stage, you've got to say, well, this one's for me, and those ones are not for me. Pick a lane. That would be my single biggest advice right now.
I think that is such good advice because, if we study business, they say so many businesses fail after they begin. And most of the reasons, we were kind of looking into the reasons for failure, and the reasons is either people are not sure, they don't have a plan, right? They're not sticking to one thing, right? So they're just kind of losing a lot of money that way. But then the other thing is a lot of people don't see it through. They don't wait. Sometimes you have to wait, especially even on Amazon after you launch a product. You got to stick with it. You got to keep tweaking. Even if you're on Shopify and you're building a funnel or something like that, you got to keep tweaking the funnel in order for it to work. So same thing, like when we launched our products in the beginning, I didn't know that much about listing optimization or what an impact it would have. And I could have quit. I could have said, oh man, this is not for me. These products aren't selling. But instead I went and found a coach that could help me with listing optimization, that could help me with just get some stuff set in place. And after that, it did improve, and it improved immensely. And it was, and now pretty much those sales, just like you mentioned, kick along and they do their thing. And so I love that piece of advice. I think, there's so many people out there right now trying to discover what it is that they want to do. There's so many opportunities in e-commerce.
So many,
Yeah. And
absolutely.
I love learning about the new ones, but I think it's so cool. So how did you get in? Let's get into the chatbots thing. How did you get into chatbots?
Goodness me, I was actually having a look at my ManyChat account the other day, and my very first chatbot was put together with string over 3 years ago. I've got people in my chatbot list that are over 3 years old. So that's, in the chatbot world, that's actually pretty old. And the reason I got into it was I saw some post in some Facebook group with some guy that was doing, hey, you can give away single-use coupons on Facebook without going into Facebook groups, using, and it was cobbled together using 4 different pieces of software. And I thought, oh, okay, that looks good. I could give away coupons. I didn't want to pay somebody like Thomas on, and I didn't want to do 99%. I just wanted to do sales like 10%, 20% type, 30% coupon codes, just to give away.
And these were just coupon codes you were creating on Amazon.
Yeah, just single use, but I didn't want to do group because, like with group codes, they get out of control and you don't want to. So this particular,
For those of you who are listening to the show right now, Regina and I are laughing because her cat has been on next to her this whole time, fluttering her tail right in front of her face. And it's been hilarious.
So there he is. This is my boy. There he is.
What's his name?
This is Bowie. Now you can't really see on here. He's called Bowie because he actually has 2 different colored eyes. He's got one blue eye and one green eye, like David Bowie. So.
Oh my gosh, the pets of Amazon.
That's it.
He's so sweet. Wow.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in to part 1 of this episode. Join us every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for live Q&A and bonus content after the recording at sellerroundtable.com. Sponsored by the ultimate software tool for Amazon sales and growth, sellerseo.com and amazingathome.com.